Hello everyone, welcome to SteamCode. In this video, we'll be going over the bubble sort. Now, the bubble sort is an algorithm that allows you to sort an array of values from lowest to greatest. Now, before I jump into the explanation of how that works and the code that I have here to set it up, let's just take a look at a quick example. So we have an array here that's completely unsorted, and we're going to use our bubble sort algorithm that we have defined up here to sort it, and we'll see how it works. So let's run the code. And we can see that this unsorted array has been sorted in lowest to greatest fashion. All right, now we have the code all written out, so we're not going to be writing code. We're just going to look at how this code works, and I'll go through it line by line. So starting off here, we're defining a function called bubble sort, and we're grabbing the length of that array that's being passed as a parameter to this function. And that length is being saved in a variable called n. Now, the first step of this bubble sort algorithm is iterating through that array. So we're starting off from I to range n, and we're creating a flag called swapped. Now, this swapped flag will tell us whether any values have been swapped during this algorithm. And the reason why this flag is important is because if this swapped flag remains false through the entirety of this for loop, that means that the list is already sorted and we don't need to waste any more memory or any more time trying to sort it further. All right, so now that we have this outer loop covered, it's going to go through every element in our array from I to n, or from 0 to n. We have an inner loop stored inside of the variable j, going from 0 to n minus I minus 1. Now, the reason that is because as I increments, the last element or the last few elements are always going to be sorted. So when I is 0, this element goes from 0 to n minus 1. So it iterates through every single element of the array. And when n is 1, or when I is 1, it goes from 0 to n minus 2. So as I increases, the range for which this inner loop iterates becomes smaller and smaller because the elements to the back of the array get switched and they get sorted. So the bulk of this array occurs within this inner for loop. So within this inner for loop, we're saying if the current element stored at index j is greater than the element stored next to j. So if we have element j and then element index j plus 1, and we're comparing the two, if the element at j is larger than the element at j plus 1, we're going to swap the two elements. So j becomes j plus 1 and j plus 1 becomes j. That's what this line is telling us. And then now that we've swapped the two elements, swapped is going to equal to true. And so now that we've done this once, we can do that for the second element. So now j moves from 0 to 1, and so now we're comparing the elements at index 1 and the element at index 2. And then as we continue to go from 0 to n minus I minus 1, we're going to end up swapping each and every element that's larger than the element to the right of it. Now, once we do that once, I is going to increment, and we know that once this inner for loop has been finished, the element furthest to the right has already been sorted. We're going to continue doing that. So if this entire sequence ran and nothing was swapped, that's what this is saying, if not swapped, then we're just going to break the function or break the for loop. And what breaking the for loop does is it just stops everything in its track and it skips to the next line. And at that point, we're going to return the sorted array. Now I know this may be a little confusing, so I'll set a breakpoint here, and we can look at this in real time. So let's expand this. Let's run and debug. Let's make this a tad bit smaller. All right. So here we have our array, 90, 14, 75, 68, 82, 11, and 95. And right now what this line is telling us is if the element at index j, which is 0 right now, we see j is 0, is greater than the element at index j plus 1, so the element at index 1. So we're comparing 90 and 14. If 90 is greater than 14, then swap the two elements. Let's see what happens when we step over. The two elements have been swapped. So let's continue. Now we're back to this breakpoint. So now if the element at index j, which is 1, is greater than the element at index j plus 1, which is 2, so now we're comparing 90 and 75. If 90 is greater than 75, then swap the two. We swap them. Now we have it sorted even better. Let's continue skipping through. As we skip through, 90 is greater than all of these elements, so they continue being swapped. Until we end up here. So now it's saying if the element at index j, which is now 5, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 90, is greater than the element at index j plus 1, which is 6. So if 90 is greater than 95, then swap the two. Now we know 90 is not greater than 95, so let's see what happens. It skips over these two steps, moves back over to 4j in range 0 to n minus I minus 1, and we see that these last two elements, or at the very least the last element, has been fully sorted. So let's continue skipping over. It skips down to the end since this inner for loop is done. Now swapped is true since we had at least one swap occur, so we know the entire array is not fully sorted just yet. And now I increments. Now we're going to do the same exact process with 14. Everything will get swapped accordingly. Then we're going to move on to 75, 68, 82, 11. So as you can see, that's how this bubble sort process works. It's not the most efficient process, but it is good for getting an idea on basic algorithms and basic sorting. All right, so that's how this bubble sort algorithm works. Let's run it one more time just to see the fully sorted array. Here we can see the array has been sorted into incrementing order. Now, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. This is how you create a bubble sort in Python and how you see how the bubble sort works. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section down below. If you liked the video, like and subscribe. This has been SteamCode, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.